was no way till you made one. Grace upon grace, hallelujah. And even though I don't deserve it, you did it. Even though I couldn't earn it, you gave it. Who am I that you keep me on your mind? God, I'm just grateful for you. God, I'm just grateful for you. And all my life, you've been right here by my side. God, I'm just grateful for you. I'm just grateful for you. God, we are undone. Absolutely undone. Gratitude, it just doesn't seem even fully accurate or enough. But God, it's what we have. Of all the emotions you've given us, it's probably the most accurate. We are a grateful people, God. Just take a moment right now. Just in your own way, in your own heart, just voice your gratitude to your Heavenly Father. That you keep me on your mind. God, I'm just grateful for you. And I'm just grateful for you. And all my life, you've been right here by my side. God, I'm just grateful for you. I'm just grateful for you. God, we love you so much. We love you so much. Yeah.
We want to continue in our series, on Joshua, pursuing the promise, but I want to do something a little different. So I want to read a few statistics before we get into this morning's message. This came from Carey Nieuwhof. Carey Nieuwhof is kind of like he's a support ministry type thing for pastors, and he gives all kinds of information and helped us pastors, trends, things about how to prolong your ministry, how to stay on track, and those kind of things, and just what's going on in the general church world and in our culture. But he says, and this is from May 11th, 2026, he says 72% of American teenagers are already turning to AI for companionship. 72%. That's not just extreme cases of troubled kids. That's 3 and 4 teenagers going to a machine for connection. He says, yeah, I know, and that it's happening today in your church. We're not just talking about a guy who married his chat box. We're talking about the teen who moved to a new town and tells an AI about his day because it's easier than telling a human being that he's alone and lonely. Or the grieving student who processes her pain with chat GPT instead of a real person or parent. And it doesn't stop with teens. It'd be real easy to look at the computers and social media and all the things facing us and say, it's just a young people problem. It's not just a young people problem. It's a young people and a middle young people and an older people and people even my age at 59. This is the second year I could collect Social Security, but we won't go there. He says more and more people are turning to AI than to clubs, churches, or other social spaces. There's a married man in your church who said more to a chat box in 6 months than to his wife. And to him, it's not a problem. He's just processing, right? Besides, his marriage went flat years ago. He said the scale of this thing, there are way more people turning to AI than to run clubs or churches or in-person gatherings. Chat GPT users send over 700 million personal messages of self-expression every week. Not business, not data, messages of personal reflection, relational problems, and emotional processing. Those who are building these things, whoever they be, writing the algorithms, say that in 10 years, these AI tools will be meeting half of the average person's emotional needs, some say up to even 80%. My question for us today that we want to address is, are we ready for the AI world? Are we ready for AI? Are we ready for what's coming at us? And really, that's already here. This is just the beginning. And I feel, personally, like I felt in 2007. Does anybody remember what happened in 2007? No? You should, because you have one in your pocket right now. That's when the smartphone came out. And when I began, it took me a while. I think it was 2007, because it took me, I'm always technologically behind. And it took me a little while, but I began to notice that my pastoral counseling began to change, and people, particularly couples, would come in and they were having problems with the phone, texting and emailing and things that were inappropriate. I've been going to have to deal with it over and over. I said, what's going on? Because I still have one of those flip phones. Anybody remember the flip phones? I thought I was a big deal when I could patch me through to McGarrett. But the smartphone came out and it began to change. And I said to myself then, I said, this is going to be 20 years before we figure out how to handle this. It's going to take a generation to figure out what this technology is going to do to us. And I think we're just beginning to figure out what it's doing to us. And now we have AI. AI is coming out. And Carrie goes on to say that half of the American adults already say they are lonely. So we have a loneliness epidemic, which Mother Teresa calls the modern leprosy. Those 18 to 24 years of age, they say that's nearly 80%. And 40% of church members say they turn to AI for spiritual guidance. We have a problem with pastors now getting their sermons from AI. I don't do that. Just want you to know I don't do that. Jay doesn't do that. We may use AI, like I might look up, I may look up something and say, AI, what does this say? But I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But we get to the word, but 40% of people go into spiritual guidance. Has anybody not seen Terminator? Every week you get to watch, or every other week you get to watch Arnold Schwarzenegger up here. Let's get to the chopper. It doesn't end well for a human race to give themselves over to AI. And so this morning, as we continue in our series, we're coming to Joshua chapter 9. And what's amazing about Joshua chapter 9 is that it really has bearing on the crisis that we face with AI. Because what we find in chapter 9 is that after Israel has gone into the promised land, they defeated Jericho, and then they went to a city called AI. You can't make this up. They went to Ai, as it's properly pronounced, Jay showed us last week, and they got a little cocky, and they said, well, we don't really need to send everybody up there. We'll just kick their butts. And so they got their butts kicked because there was sin in the camp, and God had to deal with the sin in the camp. And then he sent them back in, and then they took it over. And we come to that's in chapter 7 and chapter 8. And now we're in chapter 9, and we come to a story that's where a group of people called the Gibeonites who lived in the land, they had heard about, and we're going to read this chapter real quickly, but I'm going to summarize it, and I'm going to make the connection for you. They heard about what the Israelites were doing, and so they put on a ruse. They sent a group of ambassadors to the Israelites. They dressed them up in old clothes like they came from a distance. They packed up old food and old provisions to make it look like they came from a distance. And they came to the Israelites, and they asked to make a covenant with them because they were from far away. Because they understood something that we need to relearn today, and that is a word is a bond. When you promise something and make a covenant with something, you should keep it. And as bad as these cultures were around them, they still understood the idea of covenant. That's pretty amazing. And they deceived the Israelites because they don't seek the Lord. They just make a covenant with them. And what we want to do is, as we go through this story, what I want to do this morning is just kind of connect it to where we are today. Because the principles that we see unfold here, are the same principles that we can apply to when we look at AI. Now, I'm a big YouTuber, and I'm picking up on more and more AI stuff, and I'm getting to a point where I can begin to recognize what's AI and what's not AI, and sometimes it's hard to tell. For instance, go ahead and put the first picture up there on the screen. Sometimes it's a little hard to tell which one of those is AI and which one of those is real. I have no idea. I forgot to write it down. What about the next one? Which one is AI? Well, that one tells you. That's easy to see. But AI, you can't really tell. Go to the next one. Obviously, the one on the left is fake. I really look like that guy on the right. We can go home now. I rest my case, right? In my dreams, right? In my dreams. In Patty's dreams. She said it. She said it. I didn't. Ushers. And it came to pass, when all the kings were on this side of the Jordan, in the hills and in the lowland, and all the coast of the great sea toward Lebanon, that would be the Mediterranean, the Hittite and the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite heard about it, and they gathered together to fight with Joshua and Israel with one accord. But when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they worked craftily and went and pretended to be ambassadors, and they took old sacks on their donkeys, old wineskins torn and mended, old and patched sandals on their feet, and old garments on themselves, and all the bread of their provision was dry and moldy. And they went to Joshua to the camp at Gilgal, and said to him and to the men of Israel, "We have come from afar, now therefore make a covenant with us." Now, the first thing I'm going to say is when it comes to AI, in fact, this is the message, and I'm just going to do several illustrations of this one point. Are you ready? Everybody lean in. Here's the thing that will help you with AI. Question it. We have got to begin to question what we see. I want you to notice that when these people came in, they dressed the part. They illustrated where their point was. They did a good job of saying, we really need to get in good with these people or they're going to take care of us and wipe us out. And therefore, we need to convince them that we live far away. Now, why did they want to convince them they live far away? Somehow, they had heard about Deuteronomy chapter 20, verses 10 through 20, which God commands Israel that when they're fighting, that I'm summarizing this, when they're fighting, they are to utterly destroy those in and around them, but those that are far away, they can make covenants with them. So they had heard about what they had done, and they also they must have heard about what God would do with the nations far away. And so they dressed the part. They put on their computer some AI. You see, the problem that we're going to have, and we're having now, is when you turn on your computer or your phone and you see things, images, you don't know anymore whether those images are real or not, and we should not consider them to be real before we question them. We are at a place now, look, I watch a lot of YouTube. I do a lot of videos with preachers and teachers and news and things like that. In fact, I watch more YouTube than I do network TV. In fact, I could cancel my cable. We're thinking about it because YouTube is all I need. Now, Patty needs a tennis channel. So we can figure out how to get the tennis channel. Cable's gone. But I see a lot of these things, and I've noticed some things that there's some, and I've learned who they are now, and I've clicked a couple of them about particularly the war, and I've gone on these sites, and they have all these pictures of invasion, and these military things, and bombs going off, and all these super cool military stuff, and then you realize by the time you get halfway in, this is all made up. This is all AI. And it's gotten so bad, I don't know what's happening. I never trust what I see or read on YouTube about what's happening right now in Iran or the war, any news like that. Because there's so many things that they look real, but there's really no truth in it, or there's only half truth, or people trying to mislead us. I want you to know they worked craftily. They were intentionally deceptive. Folks, I would say that we have to begin to question what we're hearing and seeing. We need to begin to question who's saying it, who's behind us. We'll get to some of this. I'm getting ahead of myself. But it's okay to question, all right? It's okay to question what you see. It's okay to question what you hear. Because what's happening in our world is that we're getting influenced by algorithms, and we don't know who's writing the algorithms, and we don't know what they're up to, and we're getting information that is not necessarily true. Number 2, he goes on to say in verse 7, then the men of Israel said to the Hivites, perhaps you dwell among us. That's a good question. Maybe you're not telling us the truth. Perhaps you dwell among us. So how can we make a covenant with you? That's Deuteronomy chapter 20. But they said to Joshua, we are your servants. And Joshua said to them, who are you and where do you come from? We're going to have to learn to doubt. Now, very rarely will you come to a church and the preacher will tell you to learn to doubt. The irony is we got a whole culture telling us to doubt this, but not doubt AI. Not doubt this, and this. And I can list a lot of things that would offend everybody. There's only one thing I trust in this world today. It's the only thing I trust implicitly, explicitly. But I don't trust myself or anybody else totally to interpret it properly. Because I got to deal with my biases, you got to deal with your biases, preachers, you got to deal with all that. That's a whole other sermon. We need to learn to question what we see and what we hear. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. For the Father up above is looking down with love. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. Oh, be careful, little ears. For the Father up above is looking down with love. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. Oh, be careful, Pastor Bob, what you say to Patty. That's a whole nother story. The other day, I was trying a new Bible app. And one of the selling points was that they've created their own AI. Now that's important because there are different AIs out there with different creators. And we have to understand, I'm not an expert on this, but what I'm beginning to understand is who creates the AI influences what the AI is going to give you when it goes out and gets stuff. And this was a reputable Bible company. In fact, I have their program. I love their program, but I'm questioning whether I want to upgrade for $600 or whatever. And it comes with all kinds of information. So I AI'd the book of Isaiah's outlines because I'm finishing up right now my first book on Isaiah. It should be out by September. So I'm finishing that up. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to just check on something that I know. And I said, give me the outlines of AI. And it gives me this list of the ways that AI is listed or organized, the way that scholars divide the book of Isaiah and that kind of thing. And it gives me a page worth of stuff. But it never gave me how I outlined the book. And I'm not the only one who outlines it like this. It's not like there's nobody else. I learned some of this stuff from other people. But it was incomplete. So this is the best AI that we can get for biblical content, or one of the best, and it was missing information. I have had other experiences where I have studied subjects and I have gotten AI from off of Google or whatever, what you want, because I don't even, like, when I start working on a computer, you have to understand, when I start working on a computer, things go bad. Yesterday, I'm printing, I'm not exaggerating, yesterday I'm printing things and my printer just stops working and gets a little code. And it took me an hour and a half to get that code off, and by the time I got that code off, the printer no longer works anymore. So I'm not the most computer savvy guy, but I am learning because I've got to learn. You know, when you're 39, you got to learn new things. And so I'm trying to keep up with this stuff, but I'm telling you, it's just overwhelming. To us that are over 50, 60 years old, some of this stuff is just overwhelming. I have to call my grandson who's 10 is, hey, Jason, would you explain this to me? It's their world. But the way I'm understanding this AI is it's that you can create different AI systems that will give you information. But you see, if we just start trusting in it, our information can be incomplete at worst or best and downright inaccurate at worst. Because I've looked some things up that I've gotten AI reports and truthfully they're just outright wrong. Taking slants, Now, they may improve this, but I'm not guessing that that's really going to happen. I could be wrong. But I want you to notice something here in verse 7 and 8, that they actually challenged the claim of the Gibeonites. That's good. This is where Israel's doing good. How do we know where you're from? Perhaps you dwell among us. That's a challenge to they're seeing one thing, but they're a little bit suspect that, hey, this just might not be all that we're seeing. That's good. And they were also cautious. I would say one of the words, so question and caution. I think we're how do you say it, not cautious? I don't think we're cautious enough. I think we've gotten so comfortable with screens and information, and we are pumped information everywhere we go. And what's happening to us, I think, is information overload. No, I know that's the truth. And we're letting our guard down. You see, what this story is really about is that Israel will let their guard down. They're in a war. I hate to tell you, we're in a war. There are spiritual forces, if we could open our eyes, if the Lord opened our eyes, there are spiritual forces within arm's length of us that we can't see that are in opposition to us. There's a whole spiritual world, according to the Bible, out there. That's why people that want to touch the spiritual realm incorrectly are in danger, because these spirits are not benign. Right. There are spirits that want to deceive and they want to hurt. We're in a war. Yes, Ephesians talks about the heavenlies and the powers that be, and they're opposed to us. That's the reason why you ever wonder sometimes things are so hard. There's resistance. Now, Israel is in a physical battle. There's also the spiritual things, but they don't see them. They're dealing with the physical. And they begin here to let their guard down. We go on to read verse 9. So they said to him, Joshua, answering, where have you come from? From a very far country. Your servants have come. Now, that's the second time they said your servants. And it's not the last. They said it in verse 8. Now they say it in verse 9. Because of the name of the Lord your God, for we have heard of his fame and all that he did in Egypt. You see what they're doing? They're telling them the part they want to hear. That's what happens on the internet. That's what happens with news cycles. And now everywhere you go, somebody's spinning, but they start with what you want to hear. They're grooming you and me. And all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites. And I want you to notice something here. I want you to notice what he leaves out, what they leave out. They said, okay, we heard of what the fame the Lord did in Egypt, all far away, and all that you did to the two kings on the other side of the Jordan, far away, who beyond the Jordan, to Shion, king of Heshbon, Og, king of Bashan, who was at Ashtaroth. Therefore, our elders and our inhabitants of our country spoke to us, saying, take provisions with you for the journey and go to meet them and say to them, we are your servants. You know, I used to tell my kids when they were growing up, because I knew that by the time they were 15 or 16, we would start getting advertisements in the mail on these beautiful written letters from credit card companies to my kids. And that's what happened. Credit card companies sent stuff to our boys who were still teenagers. But I had groomed them for years. I had said, when you get old enough, a credit card company is going to try to get you to get a credit card, and I want you to know they're not giving you anything. It's not a gift. They're not giving, they're taking. That's what's happening here. We're your servants. 3 times they say we're your servants. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to hide their motive. Their motive is not to be servants. Their motive is to not be destroyed. But they're not willing to convert to Yahweh. They're not willing to say, we want to come in under the Mosaic covenant. No mention of that's here. We just want to live at peace with you because we're far away. The Israelites were allowed to do that by the Mosaic covenant, but they were not allowed to do that if they lived in the land. And so they're being deceptive and they're hiding their motives. When you're watching something, when you're listening to something, when you come to church, you should do this with us. I have no problem with people questioning everything I say. Go to the book. Judge it by the book. Question my motive. Why did he say that? You know, I have bad days every once in a while. Sometimes I just say things because I'm annoyed. You ever say things because you're annoyed?
Yes, sir.
2 or 3 times a year I get annoyed. No, I learned a long time ago you can't preach angry. It'll come out in your preaching. And I strive not to preach angry. The problem I have is because I'm such a passionate personality type, some people can't tell when I'm angry or when I'm just being passionate. Like when I say to my kids, clean your room, that wasn't being angry. I was passionate about cleanliness. One time my son Caleb said to me, Dad, you're always yelling at me. I said, son, I'm loud everywhere. That's not anger. You don't want to see me angry. They made a television show about me called The Incredible Hulk. But we have to learn to discern. Not just what people are telling us, but why. Why are they telling me this? What is their real motive and what is their real agenda? Because what happens here is they hide their self-interest. They're doing what they're doing to protect themselves, not to be their servants. So this is not just hiding their self-interest. This is a half-truth. And I grew up hearing half-truths are lies.
Yes, sir.
When I only tell you the part of the truth that gets you to do something that I want, that's manipulation. You know, if you study Absalom's rebellion against David, and you study what he did, he said he went to the people and he touched them, he listened to them, and he bonded with them. He did all the right things that you have to do. Read the story in Samuel, and you'll find it all the things that you need to do to connect with people and help people. But he did it for the wrong reason. And he stole the hearts of Israel and led a rebellion against his own father. Doing all the right things isn't enough. It's the right reasons. It's actually better to do the wrong thing for the right reasons than the right things for the wrong reasons. Did I get that right? What we really want to do is the right things for the right reasons. So they actually outright lied because they were trying to deceive, because their motive was filled with self-interest. We need to start looking, and it's hard to discern motive, folks. Hear me. Let me back up here. It's really hard to discern motive. Be very careful here. Especially in interpersonal relationships. Because our feelings, emotions, biases, wounds, baggage can color what we see and hear other people doing and saying. So even what we're seeing on TV. You see, one of the things they're doing is they call it clickbaiting. They throw it out there because they want you to click it. And they're trying to draw you in on what your desires and wants. That's what the problem with the machinery of AI is the algorithms are an idol of you. It's idolatry. It's artificial idolatry. Why? Because the algorithms are made so when you click, and you've ever noticed that when you click something, you get more of it? Yes. It's because they're trying to sell you more. So these algorithms are designed to be all about you. There are literally people that sit down with AI, have a conversation. And folks, this is what's scaring me now. It's scaring me. You can pick out an AI-produced model to look at while you talk to her or to him. You like Thor? You can have Thor talk to you. And what Thor or whoever your lady friend is will be telling you what you want to hear because the algorithms are designed to tell you what you want to hear. So they've had people that have been told to commit suicide and they've committed suicide. I'm not making this up. We're living in a dangerous time. And discernment is the number one thing we need. It's why I have moved in my preaching from really teaching to equipping. What I'm trying to do constantly now is to give you tools to discern between truth and error, biblical and unbiblical, my bias versus biblical bias. Because no matter how hard I try, I will never be able to get up here biasly pure. Is that even a statement? No matter what I do, and no matter how I go before God and get forgiven and cleansed, I still got stuff back here in this head that can influence me. So I'm trying to teach you even how to judge what I'm saying. Because I don't want to deceive myself, and I don't want to deceive you. And we're coming into a day where we're almost there. That videos can be made, and they're going to look real. And we're going to have a real problem. Question motive. Number 4, question God. What I mean by this is ask God. In verse 14, it says, "Then the men of Israel took some of their provisions, but they did not ask counsel of the Lord." So here's what they did. They took the free stuff. You know, my wife and I like to vacation in Hilton Head. We've been there about 30 times in our lives. It's just our spot. And so I was doing some stuff, and I got an advertisement from a company that's reputable that said free time. You can get free 3 days at Hilton Head. What did they just do? Your servant. So I called, or they called. I can't remember how it all went down. And the guy got talking to me and said, and he said, "Look, Mr. Weed, you can stay wherever you want on Hilton Head Island for 3 days for $271. You just have to prepay it." I thought, you mean I can stay? There's this place I've wanted to stay for years. It's like the top one. You mean I can stay there for 3 days? I'm thinking in my head. For less than $300? That's $100 a night. That's cheap. So I said, let's do it. So I did it. And I paid my $271 on my credit card. And a week later, I went to book my room. "Oh, Mr. Weed, you can't stay there." "What do you mean?" I said, "You said the guy was saying I can stay wherever I want." "Well, you can stay in any of these." Now, when we go to a place, it's for us middle-class folks. We go to a place that's on the beach, but it's not like high. You don't have all the luxuries and the bells and whistles, but it's a nice place. And we stay on the beach, and we like to stay. It's right there on the beach, or the development is. The condos are a little bit farther back where we stay. Is back here, and it's decent price. It's expensive, but it's decent. But the places they had were inland in the island. I said, wait a minute. I said, I'm going down. So I threw the phone against the wall, said some choice words, told Patty. She got on the phone and reamed them out. I never thought I heard her cuss like that ever in my life. She said she wasn't happy. No, she didn't get on the phone. I was miffed. I was turning green like the Incredible Hulk. I said to him, I want my money back. Oh, we can't refund your money. I said, I don't care if you refund my money or not. I'll cancel my credit card. I was mad because they hid, they didn't lie to me, but they downplayed things and they let me come to my own conclusions. Am I responsible? Yes, as I'll explain in a minute. But they were deceptive. And they're a reputable company. I still do business with them, but I did threaten. I said, you don't straighten this up, I'm canceling my account. And I go to Hilton Head every year almost. So what are you going to do about it? Now, here, I didn't pray about that. I didn't stop and say, usually like, Lord, what would you have us do here? And I didn't ask my wife. I kind of just did it on my own, which is another mistake, which I rarely do. They didn't ask counsel of the Lord. Now, Jay, I think this is amazing after you preached last week on what happened with AI. I never caught this till you shared it last week. What happened with AI? They never sought the Lord. It doesn't say they didn't seek the Lord, but if you read the story, they said, AI. They went, AI, I always call it AI. AI, it's a small town. We're not going to need it. But nowhere does it say they prayed about it and said, in fact, the group reports to Joshua and says, hey, this is a small town. Don't take everybody, as Jay adequately and greatly preached it last week. He said, just take a small group and we'll defeat them. Then they got their butts kicked. What's happening? What's happening is, as they battle, they're getting a little careless. There's a couple things that we could unpack here, but one, and I need to speed up, is when you get battle, you can get battle fatigue. You can get in battle so much that, you begin to get tired, and even seeking the Lord can be fatiguing. Can I be totally honest? And you not throw me out of the church? Sometimes I find seeking the Lord boring. I like to go, or sleep. I don't have a middle gear. But when I have to come in, I have to wait on the Lord. I have to get quiet. I have to pray. I have to learn to listen. 10 minutes in, I'm ready to go. And when you're really stressed and you got a lot to do, it's a lot easier to get to do it than stop and say, Lord, what would you have me do today? And they're in battle. The other thing is, maybe they're getting overconfident. Because that's another thing, and I think we're coming into this as a church. I believe we're coming into a series of victories, and the warning I'd give is, let's not get overconfident as the Lord blesses us. Because we can get sloppy. Oh yeah, no, Pastor Jay, just take a small army, deal with this one. So Joshua made peace with them, and he made a covenant with them to let them live, and the rulers of the congregation swore to them. Now let me just paraphrase the rest of the chapter. They've realized they're duped. And they're going to make a covenant with them anyway. You read 16 to the end of the chapter. What you'll find is when they realized they were duped and they learned that they lived close by, because they made a covenant, they honored their word and they made a covenant with them. And what you'll find in chapter 10, which Pastor Jay will deal with next week, is when they're attacked, because they're in covenant with them, Israel had to come to their side and defend them. And the point is, there's consequences to being deceived. Please hear me on this one as I wrap this up. We have an idea, I think, in the United States. I don't know about in other countries. I haven't spent enough time out there to really get a hold of this one. But we almost have the attitude that if we are deceived, no big deal. I was just deceived. Isn't that what Eve said? Oh, well, the serpent, he deceived me. They still got kicked out of the garden. There are consequences, so much so that, look, here's what's happening. They kept their word to the point where they disobeyed God's word. They were in a quandary. If they obeyed God, they'd be liars. Because God said, don't make covenants with them. But if they kept their word, now they're a covenant breaker. See, when you're dealing with law, this is the problem with law. In the Bible, the Old Testament, Torah is law. They call it law. It's instruction, but it's got a law thing to it. You get in situations where you can't be right. Now, I believe from what the story tells us, God never gets angry with them for keeping his word. That's the way I understand it, Pastor Jay. Do you too? He expects us to keep our word, but there were consequences to it. There are going to be consequences to AI. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm saying it's a tool. What we have to learn, like we did with the smartphone or the dumb phone, whatever you want to call it, we need to learn how to use it properly. And it starts with a healthy respect and questioning what's on there. We have to do more research. What I'm worried about is we're going to get lazy. We're going to get like, oh, I can just AI it. And this is what's happening with some pastors. Oh, I just AI it. No, you still got to get in the book. You still got to grapple with it. Now, I want to leave you with one last thought that really is ancillary, but it's a teaching thing, so I'm going to wrap this up. But if you go to the end of the chapter, it says that they made a covenant with them, and then it says, so that they did not kill them. And that day Joshua made them woodcutters and water carriers for the congregation and for the altar of the Lord, in the place which he would choose even to this day. My question is, why did he do that? Why? He made them servants. They were allowed to do that according to the law of Moses. We've got to deal with that. That's just one of those hooks. But why did he do that? Because the law of Moses is justice. The law of Moses is all about justice. And justice in the law, the first 5 books, is what they call retributive. Eye for eye. Tooth for tooth. This is free. This is you can go to sleep if you want to. But if you want to understand the Old Testament and why we need the new covenant and why Jesus said somebody slaps you on the right, left cheek turned him to the right, or whatever he said, I might be misquoting it. He's saying that we need to go beyond the law of Moses. We need to go beyond justice. Because justice in the Old Testament is the right standard. Because what it meant was eye for eye was the punishment must fit the crime. You can't, somebody knocks your tooth out or your eye out, you can't kill them. It's a limiting of justice. But it's only the beginning. The Old Testament is the beginning of what God wants to give, and that's total, complete forgiveness and redemption. But meanwhile, you got Joshua who's living out. Remember I said connect the dots a few weeks ago? He's living out the Mosaic covenant, which is a covenant of social justice. Eye for eye. So they came in, what did they say? Your servants, your servants, your servants. So when they figured out they lied, their judgment was, your servants, your servants, your servants. You'll never understand Isaiah, Ezekiel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah. Name the prophets. You'll never understand them if you don't understand that principle. And we won't understand the gnarly subjects like utterly destroy them, or what the Bible does say about slavery in the Old Testament and the New, without understanding context and content and what God's doing and how the trajectory, what God is working, the trajectory of the human race on a track that he's leading us somewhere, and we are somewhere on that track. We don't know where. We don't know if we got 100 years or 1,000 years. Nobody knows. I know you hear, oh, Jesus is coming back. Look, I'm going to tell you all the Jesus coming back stuff. I can take you 100 years ago. It was all there 100 years ago. We're missing something. And we're missing the big picture. And the big picture of the whole Bible is going to be the secret sauce to understanding what you see on AI. We got to see the big picture of the Bible, or we're going to get drawn into theological mumbo jumbo. It's going to sound true. It's going to sound good. They're going to have great graphics. Man, the graphics today are amazing. But that doesn't mean they're true. Folks, as we leave here this morning, use the tools that God gives us, but question everything. Get in the Bible, learn the big story, and it'll give you the context we need, especially when we're addressing biblical issues. And there's a lot of biblical issues to address today. Father, I thank you for your word. I thank you for your Spirit. I thank you for the blood of Jesus Christ that speaks better things than the blood of Abel. We thank you this morning that, Lord, you're giving us these tools. These are gifts. But, Lord, with every tool, there's dangers. And we ask you, Lord, for discernment to grow within us. Not suspicion in the sense that we are suspicious of one another, but that we're just cautious. That we learn to, it's okay when people challenge us, that we don't get offended. And it's okay for us to challenge, but may our hearts be drawn to find out what the truth is and to learn how to deal and then mix and use these tools. Father, bless your people, we pray in Jesus' name. And everybody said,